Is Lady Luck returning to the Silver State? Experts disagree on whether signs of hope are sprouting along the Las Vegas Strip. Could it be enough to bail the state out of its multi-billion-dollar budget hole? We'll talk with the newest member of the Nevada Gaming Commission, former Nevada State Senator Randolph Townsend. Plus, we'll hear from a member of the state's Economic Forum about where we stand. And we'll tell you who had a really bad week in politics. That's all next on Face to Face.
This is Face to Face with John Ralston.
Welcome to Face to Face. We'll bring you newsmakers and commentary you won't find anywhere else. But first, let's take a look at what's behind today's political headlines. A new poll says Republican gubernatorial candidate Brian Sandoval is trouncing Democrat Rory Reid. Rasmussen reports asked 500 likely voters who would get their vote if the election were held today. Brian Sandoval got 55% to Rory Reid's 33%. 8% said some other candidate, and 4% were not sure. Now, this is not good news for the man currently known as Rory. Many will discount the results. Rasmussen is controversial, to say the least, and it has been accused of favoring Republicans. But the trend here is terrible for the man formerly known as Rory Reid. If it's not Dad, it's his county commissioner title dragging him down. And his opponent, Brian Sandoval, is nowhere to be found. I wonder why. Harry Reid is plotting a high-stakes gamble to bring climate and energy legislation to the floor before the August recess. That's the word from a story in Politico. The story says Reid is gambling on combining a bipartisan measure to overhaul offshore drilling rules with a contentious bill capping greenhouse gas emissions. This is a classic Reid legislative move. He's trying to meld an unpopular idea, cap and trade, with a popular one, the drilling rules. The majority leader clearly hopes the Gulf spill will help push this over the top. Just trying to add to the list of bills passed on his 2010 resume. But will voters want to rehire him with that experience? Moody's Investor Service may think the outlook for the U.S. gaming industry is improved, but a story in today's Las Vegas Sun says the industry still faces plenty of challenges. Among them, the troubled U.S. economy, threats of more layoffs by local governments, and higher taxes facing Americans. Polls show that no matter what numbers you use, people here don't think the state is doing very well. As many as 80% think the economy's going in the wrong direction. It may be only a recession in technical terms, but folks in Nevada are in a depression. In a moment, we'll hear from former State Senator Randolph Townsend. But joining me first to talk about the economy, a member of the state's Economic Forum from Restrepo Consulting Group, John Restrepo. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, John.
Remember the old Johnny Carson? You're old enough to remember that. They'd have the old joke about how bad is it? How bad is it?
Very bad, but less bad than it was a year ago. So the numbers are still trending down. Most of the indicators locally that they're just trending down at a slower rate. Some are maybe even flattening. Locally, at the national level, some of the national indicators we track seem to be improving, okay, in terms of
Separate these out for me, Mr. Restrepo. What seems to be improving? What's flattening out? What's still really bad?
Job growth we're still losing jobs but at a slower rate. The housing prices, median house price in Las Vegas, which is another major indicator we're seeing, is flattening. Unemployment claim filings, although we're still seeing them each month, they're less than they were a year ago in terms of monthly changes. So those numbers are good locally. At the national level, we're starting to see things like more hours worked, consumer confidence is improving, debt loads are being reduced by consumers. But all this is predecessing. You have to have this before you start spending. The issue is that the consumers are still not spending. They're deleveraging and paying off debt. But they're not spending. And when we have a discretionary spending-based economy like we have now, that's where we're challenged because of that. And
we need to change that, but that's a subject for a different day. Or perhaps the guest that's coming up might talk to me about that a little bit.
Right.
The department, the state has a newsletter it puts out at the end of every week where it summarizes the economic conditions. Let me read a little bit from that. In just 3 years, Nevada's economy has fallen from one of the strongest performing to possibly the weakest. Since the start of the recession in December 2007, the unemployment rate has increased 8.8 percentage points, the largest increase of any state in the nation. In May, Nevada's unemployment rate was 4.3 percentage points higher than the national average. We saw this record that was set here, 14%. We're now not only record-setting in Nevada, we're the highest in the country now, a dubious honor, of course. Are we going to continue to see that tick upward for a while, do you think?
Yes, but it's a weird indicator, and that's why we look at job growth as opposed to the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is done as a household survey. So if you're looking for a job and you're feeling better about the job market and you're back in the market to look for a job, and they survey you, they put you on the unemployment rate. You're searching. It's when you're too depressed to look for a job, you don't show up in the numbers. So the unemployment rate, while it's an important indicator, it's not the be-all, end-all. You have to really look at job growth. And so you could have a situation where we could be having job growth and the unemployment rate still increase. And so you have to look at a variety of indicators. To us, job growth. We did see 3,000 new jobs in May versus April. Most of them were federal jobs related to the Census Bureau. So there are
That's very misleading.
Yeah, exactly. Very misleading. So yeah, the job growth number is what we looked at. The unemployment rate goes up and down based on the comfort of people that are looking for jobs.
You look at these things statewide.
Right.
We have a statewide audience here. Are things worse in the South than they are in northern and rural Nevada? The opposite? Parse it out for us that way.
Yeah, Reno's doing a little bit better than we are now. Nevada, Southern Nevada being such a driver of the state because of the jobs are here and the population growth here, it really drives the state numbers. But we're probably worse off here because we have a more tourist-dependent economy in Southern Nevada than you have in Reno and Washoe County. So that has an effect on us, too.
Let's show people another indicator that's out there, and this also comes from the state. It's a sobering look at what's happened to retail in Nevada. You know these numbers. In March, taxable sales fell 7.4%. Through the first 9 months of the fiscal year, taxable sales are down 13.3% compared to the same period in fiscal year 2009. And, of course, that was not a good year, right?
Correct.
Is that going to keep trending this way? There were some double-digit dips for a while, right? Now, at least, maybe to some extent, are those flattening out a little bit?
It's month to month. We anticipate there's going to be a little bit of a double dipping this time around because now that this home buyer credit has gone away and they're getting extended based on what happened in Washington yesterday. Some of those purchases are starting to improve because people are buying homes and maybe buying furniture and a few other things to move into these new homes. That's going to take a hit right now. So we anticipate a downturn again on those numbers for the remainder of the year.
We have about 30 seconds left. I asked the speaker this question. I'll ask you the same question. You're a guy who looks at this for the Economic Forum. Do you think we're going to need another special session before 2011 to fix the state budget again?
I don't know. It depends on how it trends down. There's a possibility.
There is a possibility.
Yeah, because if the numbers keep trending as the way they're doing, we could do it. The challenge is, as you know, John, there's nowhere you're going to cut your way out of this completely, and no way you're not going to be able to increase some taxes. There is going to be a mixture of things that are going to have to be done in the next legislative session. It's going to be a very difficult time for us.
Well, I appreciate you giving me a segue to the next guy we're going to talk to. Former State Senator Randolph Towns is going to be here to talk about this. John Restrepo, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you, John, for inviting me. Appreciate it.
And when we come back, we will talk to Randolph Towns, and he has an interesting perspective on this. He was a legislator for many years. Now he's on the commission that oversees the most important industry in this state, gaming. We're going to talk to him when Face to Face returns. And later, I'm going to tell you about who had a really bad week in politics. And guess what? 2 members of the same family are on that list. I bet you can't guess who they are. Back in a moment.